So, have you tried to buy a PC component recently? Did you look at the price and just think, what is going on? Well, it's not just you, and you're not imagining things. The market for the tech we all love has been turned completely upside down. And the reason why is a wild story of secret deals, pure panic, and a single move that sent shockwaves through the entire industry.
156%. Let that sink in. That's how much a totally standard 32 gig kit of DDR5 RAM jumped in price in just 3 weeks. We're talking about a situation where by this Christmas, your RAM could literally cost more than your CPU and motherboard combined. And this isn't some weird fluke. This is the smoking gun. This is symptom number one of a market that is in serious trouble.
And if you think that's wild, it gets even more absurd. Just try to put yourself in the shoes of a system builder, right? You build PCs for a living. You call up your memory supplier for a new order, and they tell you, sure, we can get you that in December of 2026. No, that is not a typo. That's a real quote from a real conversation, and it just shows you how completely shattered the supply chain is right now. So what on earth happened? Seriously, how did we go from a world where prices were actually falling to a world with a multi-year backlog? And how did it happen so fast? It felt like we blinked and the entire market just snapped. Well, let's dive in and unpack this.
Here's the thing you have to understand. This wasn't just one single event. This wasn't one thing going wrong. Nope. What we're looking at here is a perfect storm. 3 different but totally interconnected factors that all slammed into the market at the exact same time with just a devastating effect.
The whole thing really breaks down into 3 stages. First, it all kicked off with some incredibly secretive deals that nobody saw coming. That, in turn, led to the second stage, a massive wave of panic buying that just poured gasoline on the fire. And finally, all of this hit a market that was already incredibly vulnerable, with basically empty shelves, which made the whole impact 1,000 times worse. Okay, so let's rewind to October 1st. This is where it all begins. In a move that absolutely blindsided the entire tech world, OpenAI secretly signed 2 enormous simultaneous deals with Samsung and SK Hynix, the 2 biggest memory makers on the planet. And what were they buying? A staggering 40% of the entire global supply of DRAM. And here's why that was such a shock. The market knew a big AI deal was probably coming. They were expecting maybe one big deal late in the year with one supplier, and with plenty of signals and warnings. But what actually went down was a surgical strike. 2 deals with the top 2 suppliers on the exact same day, executed in total secrecy. Get this, it seems even Samsung and SK Hynix didn't know the full picture of what the other was signing. The secrecy wasn't just part of the plan, the secrecy was the weapon. And that secrecy, well, it immediately lit the fuse on part 2 of this story, pure, unadulterated panic. Because when tech executives woke up that morning and heard the news, their first reaction wasn't, oh, that's an interesting business move. It was a gut punch of fear. What else is happening right now that we have no idea about? And you could just feel the chaotic mindset that took hold, right? Suddenly, nobody trusts their suppliers to give them a heads up. Everyone just assumes their competitors are out there, right now, buying up every last chip they can find. And it all boiled down to one terrifying thought. If we don't buy everything we can right now, we could be locked out of the market for years. And just like that, the feeding frenzy began. Now, here's the really crucial part. All this panic buying, this mad dash for components, it slammed into a market that had absolutely zero cushion, no safety stock, no buffer. OpenAI's move wasn't just a punch to the gut, it was a knockout blow to a system that was already completely defenseless. So why were the shelves so bare to begin with? Well, it boils down to 3 main reasons. First, you had all this chaos around tariffs, which made companies really nervous about holding big, expensive inventories. Second, memory prices had been falling all summer long, so why would anyone stock up on something that was just going to be cheaper next month? And third, the whole secondary market for older manufacturing equipment had ground to a halt, which meant the total supply just wasn't growing. The market was already running on fumes before the panic even started. Okay, but this is where the story takes a really fascinating and kind of dark turn. Because this might not just be about a company securing its own supply chain. There's a strategic twist here, a move that suggests something far more aggressive is at play. You have to ask the big question, why would you buy 40% of the world's entire memory supply right now? Here's the kicker. OpenAI isn't buying finished RAM sticks like you or I would. They are buying the raw, uncut silicon wafers. Wafers that they aren't even ready to process yet. Wafers that are now reportedly just being stockpiled in warehouses. And that, my friends, points to a classic and pretty ruthless business tactic, creating artificial scarcity. I mean, think about it. In this massive AI arms race, what's the one resource everyone desperately needs? Memory. And lots of it. So if you can't secure enough for yourself, maybe the next best thing is to make damn sure your rivals can't get any either. The goal here, it seems, wasn't just to get what they needed, it was to deliberately starve the competition. So, let's bring this all back home. What does this high-stakes game of corporate chess actually mean for you? For the tech that you use every single day and for the stuff you might be planning to buy in the next year? Well, the consequences are very, very real. All right, here is the damage report for your tech. Let's start with RAM. Too late. That ship has sailed. Prices have already exploded. For stuff like SSDs, Radeon GPUs, and even the Xbox, if you're thinking of buying, I wouldn't wait. We're already hearing that some future products are likely canceled. NVIDIA GPUs, they're a bit safer, but you can probably forget about seeing any high-capacity supermodels for a while. Laptops and phones, phew, you're safe for now thanks to long-term contracts. And the surprise winner here? PlayStation. Sony played this brilliantly and bought up a ton of cheap memory over the summer. And here's the one possible silver lining in all this. CPU prices might actually go down because fewer people will be building new systems. And please, make no mistake, this is not some temporary blip that's going to be over in a few weeks. It's just not. Even if a miracle happened tomorrow, the supply chain is already quoting lead times of over a year. The chaos we're seeing now, it's already baked in for at least the next 6 to 9 months. And all of this leaves us with one final big and kind of scary thought to chew on. In this new era of giant AI companies, when one single firm can make a secret move that destabilizes a global market and directly hits the wallets of millions of people, it really makes you wonder who's ultimately responsible for that fallout.